Hello, Eve. Thanks so much for joining me on my show. I'm super excited to have you. Uh, your show is called Coming into Consciousness. I I know you do a bunch of different things, but you identify as an immigrant and you have been a nurse. You're retired now and you're a yoga instructor. I know you do a lot of other things too. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think I'm in an interesting period of my life. I was a doula for many years as well, helping women birth babies. And um, I feel like I need a doula in my life right now because I'm in such a transition from being kind of identified with the role of nurse and helper, and now I am semi retired and I'm retired from nursing. And letting go of my nursing license this year was very profound and was a very deep mirror for me to look in and learn more about myself. And I guess when I first came to this country, I kind of thought that, and I think young people think this, there's sort of a place where you arrive and then you stop, then you're yourself, or then you're happy or fulfilled. And now at 65, which is hilarious for me to say that because internally I don't feel it, I feel ageless. um, I've learned that you never stop evolving, you never stop deepening your sense of awareness of yourself, of what the world is really about. It's not what we were told. And having a direct experience of life without the world's interpretation. Very, very profound.
That's wonderful. I know that when I asked you what you would want your show to be titled, you said coming into consciousness. And is this experience and this realization why you chose that theme and that topic?
I feel that my whole life, from being very young, has been dedicated to this topic, sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously. Into, I think the goal of being happy in life is kind of chasing a carrot that you never reach. But if your goal in life is to keep evolving and becoming more of yourself and dropping the facades that you've used to survive in life or that your culture has told you. Um, yeah, I just didn't know it was forever. I thought it was a done deal, but it isn't. And also, oh, I know what my point was. I think we hope to make the false self, the self that's from conditioning and from our childhoods and from our parents and our ancestry, we think we can make that self happy, and that's our goal in life. Let's make Eve happy. Let's make Agni happy. But those selves are not real. I'm not an Eve, and you're not an Agni. And to find that, to begin to take the layers off of who we're not so that we can be who we are. And being who you are is not a person, it's not a personality, it's more like a space. And what I've noticed lately is that I do very, very little thinking. There's not a lot of thinking going on here. It's quiet up here. And that is different, because the brain, the mind that is trying to protect us all the time has a lot of stories and a lot of worries and a lot about the future, what's going to happen in the future. And at this time now, I'm noticing I'm not. When I know when I start doing that, that the false self has gotten a hold of me, you know, because consciousness has no identity. It has no future. It has no past. It's just, I guess the closest word I would come to is space. It's a lot of space because a personality is a contraction. It's contracting this massive miracle of life into some kind of small little identity.
Mm.
And consciousness is vast. It's, it's everything.
Yeah. No, yeah, we've had a lot of conversations about this, I know, and I know we can like go on for hours about consciousness and spirituality, but let's like my show's called My Roots, My Routes. So
Keep me on track, girl.
let's no, that's fine. Let's talk about your roots. Tell us all a little bit about your roots, where you came from, where your journey started, and how you landed up here, where you are in life today.
I was born in Glasgow in Scotland. I am from a Jewish background of sort of nomads. My grandparents were from Hungary and Russia and Poland. And my parents were adults in the Second World War and were very traumatized by that experience and didn't have a lot of hope in humanity. So they weren't really able to pass that on to their children. I would say they were pretty traumatized. And I left home at 16 and came to America, which is kind of in my genetics, My grandparents, they all left their countries and and arrived in Scotland from
Mhm,
Europe.
mhm,
So I think I'm a bit of a gypsy mix. Those are my roots. And
mhm,
when I when I think of what my parents have survived and my grandparents, I understand more deeply as an adult what they were having to deal with when they came to be parents, which of
mhm,
course influenced me greatly. So
mhm,
some of their hopelessness that came out of their experience and their parents' nomadic experience, they were leaving what we call pogroms, which is when the locals would go out and just kill any Jews they found.
mhm,
So they were running from that. So there's a lot of that trauma and surviving and going to other countries in my genetics.
mhm.
And so it makes sense to me that we all left Scotland.
Yeah,
My siblings.
wait, did all your siblings leave Scotland?
Yes.
Mm,
My brother and sister also came to America. My sister lives in Canada, and my brothers live in England.
got
Yeah.
it. Okay,
So
that brings
I'm a vagabond, I would say.
that actually brings me to my next question, which is
Oh,
why the US? Why did you share that picture? You're kind enough to share a picture from when you first arrived. Where is that? Is that New York City?
that's New York in Park.
Mm.
Um, when I was 16, I read a book called The Primal Scream,
Mhm.
and it was about therapy, which I had no idea about. And it suggested that you could feel your feelings and heal anything that you had inherited. I had no idea what that meant, but it called to me and I saved up my pennies to come to America to do primal therapy in New York.
Primal
And
therapy.
and I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me a lot. It's still a tool that I use, and really all other modern therapies stand on the shoulders of primal therapy because it was one of the first therapies that said you have to feel your feelings, not just talk intellectually about them.
Mm-hmm.
That we carry pain in our bodies, in our consciousness, and you need to feel it. And so I did a lot of crying
Mm-hmm.
and being mad, and yep. And I think it's been a very useful lens in which to look through life at or through. It's not the only one because, of course, as an adult now, um, I have a bigger consciousness ability. I have a bigger access to my consciousness to not blame my parents, but to give them the responsibility for sometimes not acting very skillfully towards their children, but also the bigger heart to understand why that would make sense to them. You know, one of my teachers said, and I use this a lot, if you believed what they believed, you would behave like that too.
Yeah.
And so their consciousness was narrowed and collapsed because of the trauma they went through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was my job genetically to expand that consciousness again, which includes, that wasn't very good. And I understand why you did it.
Mm-hmm.
So forgiveness to me is very misunderstood in this world. The way that I understand it and I experience it is that forgiveness is another word for understanding. When you really understand something, there's nothing to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
So, believing what they believed and the limitations of their time,
Yeah.
it makes complete sense,
Why
their
did?
behavior and their choices. And it's a wonderful place to come to find that organically inside of myself,
Mm-hmm.
that it arose spontaneously from the expansion of my consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's a very profound experience that
Mm-hmm.
you find the teachings that people who've come before us, have written for hundreds of years, the same thing. Um, when you find that inside of yourself and you don't have to read somebody else telling you, it's a
Yeah.
spontaneous occurrence.
Yeah.
That's what a life is for. It's not for a job or to save money, or it's for this experience of what is it to be human.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
is this gift of life? Why did life pull me out of nothingness to create this? What does life want to know through me, through
Mm-hmm.
this consciousness, through this body, through this life experience?
Mm-hmm.
So it's moving from a very understandable victim consciousness to victorious.
I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's right. Great. Okay.
Next question.
Next
Goodbye,
question.
young Eve. Can't believe I had all that hair. Oh,
Next.
there I am again.
Yeah, there's Nurse Eve from This Is Graduation, right? So tell me, one thing you always say, I remember you saying whenever we speak, is that you knew you wanted to be a nurse from when you were little, like 3,
8 years
4,
old.
8 years old. Okay, 3 or 4, maybe not too early. Okay, 8 years old. Why nursing, do you think? Did now looking back, I think you understand a lot more about why you did things and were drawn to certain things,
Yeah.
right? Why nursing?
Mm. There's many reasons, but the one that comes to mind right now is this heart is so kind, so sweet. You know, all of our hearts are sweet, just sweetness itself. And I loved taking care of people. I was challenged cognitively, uh, and also emotionally, intellectually
Yeah.
by nursing. So it kind of satisfied a lot of different parts of me.
And
And
you've been in like many different, like you've done
many
hospice
specialties,
care,
yeah, in oncology,
oncology.
pediatrics, senior living, AIDS nursing,
Hmm.
hospice, you
Right.
name it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the goddess has led me where I need to be.
Hmm.
So, why my grandpa, who took care of me the first few years of my life, and I think is the reason why I was still in touch with my heart because he was so good to me. Um, he died when I was 8 years old. It was very sad for me.
Hmm.
And he had been my main caregiver. And I remember my mother saying He died because he wasn't well nursed.
Mm.
That planted a seed in my little 8-year-old head. And then when she went to the funeral that night, I watched a documentary about becoming a nurse, and that was it. Boom!
I love that. So tell me a little bit about, let's talk about the immigrant experience in nursing back in those days. Was there anything that was different, or did you feel like your experience was the same as the others?
Oh, no, 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 no. I had a different perspective coming from Europe and
Mm-hmm.
also European nursing, which is very different than here.
Oh, is it?
Um,
Like how?
well, the hospitals in England and Britain are run by student nurses. I mean, you really
Mm.
come out a qualified nurse out of Britain, but not here. You know nothing of really what it takes. That first year of nursing on the floor is hell.
Mm.
But the student nurses run most hospitals in England. You do your
Mm.
training on the floor.
Oh.
So yeah, and I had already been a nursing assistant in England, and so I was very comfortable with bodies and fluids and nakedness and illness. So I was very comfortable there. I think I was a little older than some of the students, and I just had a bigger view.
Mm. Yeah.
And also, I was in therapy.
Yeah.
So I knew about people's feelings, and I could sit with people and encourage them to talk about things.
Yeah.
Um,
Gives you all these perspectives, right? Being in
yeah, different
therapy,
ways to
being an
look at
immigrant.
things.
Yeah.
I had a bigger experience
Yeah.
to pull from than most of the students.
Yeah.
There was one other lady who was married with a child, and we used to chat together.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it felt like the difference between sort of being an adult learning this and being with children who were sort of naive about
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that young nurse.
I love that
Voted
picture.
voted most likely to go somewhere in her career.
Oh,
Hmm, I
they
don't know if
weren't
I
wrong.
fulfilled that.
They weren't wrong. Okay. Tell me like the hardest experience, or you can even tell me like the most profound experience you've had as an immigrant.
Oh, yes. So, being from a white privileged background and going through immigration here, it was an eye opener
Mm.
to what it's like to be on the other side in the cattle market. Uh, I mean, I had suffered a lot of racism in England being Jewish. And so I was kind of used to that being the outsider and also being Scottish living in England and having a different accent. I got
Mm.
a lot of aggro from that. But um, when I went through the immigration process here, it was startling. I felt like an animal. We had to, in New York in those days, to apply for a green card, you had to camp overnight on the street.
No way.
Yeah, they
What?
only would see the first
So,
60 or 80 couples.
so it's like first come, first serve kind of a thing?
Totally. So we camped out overnight, and then we were not seen till 2 in the afternoon, my husband and I.
Mm. So you're like
So
treated as second class citizens pretty much.
totally. And here I am, white, being able to speak English, understand, and there are all these poor people who didn't. And if you didn't have every single piece of paperwork that they wanted, it was goodbye.
Mm.
We'll see you another time. I
Mm-hmm.
can't, I mean, I can't believe I went through that. So that was quite traumatic. And
Mm-hmm.
also an incredible education of what it's like to be the underdog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to ask you about the people and the communities that have, through all these years here in a new country, supported you and kept you going.
Definitely friendships. It's wonderful, wonderful friendships.
But you must have had friendships in so many different, you know, from your nursing
The
life.
nursing, the primal community was incredibly supportive. Also, I worked for a little sweatshop in New York, and those people took me under their wing. I remember
Oh,
being here for the first Thanksgiving. I didn't know about Thanksgiving, and
yeah.
them taking me home with them and feeding me and just taking me in. A lot of people there took
Oh,
me in
that
to
is
their
so
heart.
sweet.
It was very sweet.
You know, when you're like new and the outsider, these tiny little gestures mean so much, right?
So
It just
much.
changes your day, week, holiday,
And I
everything.
was so young and so fresh off the boat. I was 20 and so naive.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I spoke, my accent got me into a lot of doors opening. People found it very charming,
Fancy and
especially as I had
exotic. Yeah.
a strong Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Um, I think my authenticity helped me survive, and people were attracted to that. So definitely, yeah, the primal community, my work community,
Mm-hmm.
and friends. Friends have been my family here. They are my chosen family, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. My final question for you is what would you tell a 20 something Eve who has just arrived in this new country today?
Hmm.
Is that a loaded question?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind, which I long to hear sometimes from other people, is you can do it. You can do it. And you're wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You are wonderful and you're following your dreams, and it's okay. Just keep following them. You'll be okay. Follow
Mm-hmm.
the mystery.
The
And
not knowing, like, don't be scared of the not knowing, right? That's something you always say. Yeah.
follow the unfolding path. It's not laid out yet. It unfolds below your feet as you walk towards, what you're drawn to. So I've always had wonderful instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to follow those kind of, oh, I should do that, or
Yeah.
things that the impulses of yourself are signals of where to go and what to do. And sometimes they don't make sense to your cognitive self, and yet they're the right thing to do.
Yeah. Trust
Mhm.
your inner
Trust
self.
your inner self, your instincts, what you're drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I had found yoga by then,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a safety net for me because it gave me a spiritual safety net in which to look at life through, not just a psychological lens, which I was getting from being in therapy. uh, it helped to balance me when I noticed other people didn't have that. They were more lost. So that has been an anchor to me my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those are all my questions.
Mhm.
You are wonderful, Eve. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining me. And yeah, my conversations with you are always so different and so profound. It's very different, and it's something I need, to, because you're right, like you end up just talking about work and how I'm going to get here and how I'm going to get to the next thing. And your conversations with me are always very grounding, and I hope that this episode does that for many other people who watch it. So thank you
Me
so
too.
much.
Oh, thank you. And the reason you feel grounded is because you're getting in touch with who you really are. And that's the only place you can be grounded, because the false self just is greedy for what it doesn't need.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is always more, more, more.